Welcome to the Travel Transformation Podcast, the podcast that explores the life-changing potential of solo travel, intentional travel, and location-independent working. Whether you're an aspiring digital nomad or simply want to boost your confidence through epic travel experiences, I'm here to motivate and inspire you to go after all your wildest dreams. I'm Jessica Grace Coleman, author, travel transformation coach, founder of Flip the Script Travel Transformation Services, and your host for the Travel Transformation Podcast. Travel changed my life. Now let's change yours. You ready? Let's go. Welcome to the Travel Transformation Podcast, where we talk all things travel and all things transformation. My guest today is Evelina Rimkute, host of the Footprints of an Expat podcast and author of the book Questions and Thoughts for Every Day. As a Lithuanian living in Switzerland, she has been experiencing the expat life for 8 years and has interviewed many expats on her podcast. She is passionate about encouraging women to support each other in their career path and various life situations, and she wants to spread the message that life is the most beautiful one-time journey, whatever road you're taking. I met Evelina online through my friend Lydia, who I met earlier this year in Spain, and after messaging back and forth for a while, we decided to be guests on each other's podcasts. So last week I went on her podcast, Footprints of an Expat, and we had a lovely conversation about all things travel. And now I'm happy to have her as a guest on the Travel Transformation Podcast. So a big thank you to Lydia for connecting us. In business and in life, everything is about networking and making connections, and I'm so glad Lydia introduced us to each other. I had a great time talking to Evelina, so let's get to the interview. Hi, Evelina, and welcome to the Travel Transformation Podcast. Thank you so much for coming on. How are you doing today?
Hey, Jess. Thank you for inviting me. It's such a pleasure to be here today. I'm doing well. I'm on already my vacation mode. Maybe a bit already fitting to the topic. I'm home. For the travelers and expats, being home is definitely something special. I'm home at my sister's place, enjoying my vacation. And as I said, very happy to be here and see you.
Great. And for our listeners, where is home for you and where do you live normally?
So I come from Lithuania. I grew up there. In the middle of Lithuania, I was going to school. Then I went to Vilnius, to the capital, to study, to work. And then almost 8 years ago, more than 8 years ago, I left to Switzerland, where I'm living now. So I would say my life, my heart is in Switzerland, but my home, my roots are still in Lithuania.
And why did you move to Switzerland? Was it work related or?
There are many stories when I recall back why did I left, but the straightforward approach was that I was willing to go abroad. And I was really working on that mindfully. So I decided that I create my LinkedIn profile. I'll start working on my blog, writing about my work to have more visibility. And then I got a call from IT company in Switzerland looking for people who could do test management work. That's what I'm working in. And who could speak German. And magically, I checked both of the boxes and I moved to Switzerland to work in IT, continue my career. And for now, I stayed till now there.
Wow. So you were putting yourself out there online and on LinkedIn and someone phoned you. Is that right?
Yes, that was the mindful decision. And then afterwards, I even asked people, why did you choose me? And they said, we have so many interviews. Everyone looks similar, just online calls. And then we found your blog. So that is definitely something what was interesting and different. And then they thought, okay, we want to work with her.
I love that because so many people think the only way to get a new position or a new job is to actively apply and, spend soulless days just applying to job after job after job. But you just put yourself out there and online and did your blog and all that kind of stuff and LinkedIn and everything. And they came to you. And I love that. I love that works because so many people think it doesn't. So that's amazing.
For me, it worked. I won't be selling this like as $1 million idea, but for me, it worked. That was what I was capable to do. And that was my way to start my journey abroad.
I think that can apply to so many things as well, like entrepreneurship as well. People are scared to put themselves out there and they don't know how to get clients or they don't know how to get collaborations or anything like that. But if you just consistently put yourself out there and get your message out there to as many people as possible, things start to happen. And that's the sort of the space I'm in at the moment. So this is a great reminder to just keep putting stuff online and just to keep going, because you never know what's going to happen. So I really like that.
Indeed, indeed. You never know whom you tell your idea, who will reflect it back and maybe enhance it.
Yeah, great. So had you been to Switzerland before, or was this a totally new place to you?
It was a totally new place for me. I was still thinking, I know German. I mean, just IT, just the bank, just the projects. I can do it, yeah? So it was the new country, and it was full of surprises country.
Wow. So how did you feel when you first got there? And what were the biggest differences you noticed straight away?
I think I was mindfully open that I come here to integrate and to stay. So I was more or less ready to adapt, but there were things that I needed to be more even tolerant and just accept things the way they are. So some things are straightforward, like I'm coming from Lithuania, so where we jumped into the digital or improvement age quite late after our independence, meaning we chosen available latest technologies, approaches like electronic signatures, login via e-banking, sending invoices via email. And then you go to Switzerland, you receive 3 letters almost each day. They send everything via post.
Oh, wow.
Even your payment, salary confirmation, everything you need to pay, everything comes by post. So you learn, you figure out what is post. Then you figure out that German has lots of dialects. And Switzerland speak the dialect in each canton or even each bigger city, which is a bit different. So even if I speak German, which I forgot after school, of course, I need to remember, you still hear different versions of it. And it took me almost 4 years till I decided to start studying and learning that Swiss dialect. I was happy to join the team and the project who was quite international. So it was also lots of not only Swiss, but international culture differences, how we communicate, which jokes we made, who eats meat, who don't eat meat, which jokes is allowed, who understand my Lithuanian jokes. And that was the also experience that I had encountered to meet people from Egypt, South America, USA, UK, India, everywhere in Switzerland, no? And I just come from small Lithuania, so it was a big exposure that also required a bit of being more human, so tolerant to accept all this. And then nature and being outside. Because till then in Lithuania, I was mostly studying, working. I was working through my studies. So life was quite busy. And then you come into Switzerland, you have just the job, no additional studies, and the beautiful land to travel. And I definitely joined that wave of Swiss people who are said are the best travelers inside the country. Swiss are tourists in their own country, really going to the mountains, to the valleys, to the lakes. And I very happily joined that force. So languages, post, cultures, and the nature.
Wow. And it makes sense that, you know, they travel in their own country because it looks so beautiful and got so many great cities by the sounds of it.
Definitely.
Do you have a favorite place that you've been to within Switzerland?
There are a small hidden lake in the mountains, and it's called Oschinensee, and it's just beautiful. But I say it just because I have to name something. In general, I just adore mountains, adore seeing the horizon and seeing different shapes, and then feeling how small we are, that our 100 years of moment will pass very fast, and they will continue staying. And they don't care. They don't care what shoes I'm wearing. They don't care what kind of working day I have. They just stay there, very powerful, and I'm just, walking around and admiring them. I think that it's very strong feeling that I feel when I'm in that nature.
Same. Those are two of my favorite things, mountains and lakes, and just any body of water, really. When I get around it, I feel so just relaxed and content. And it doesn't matter if it's even like a tiny lake or whatever. It sort of grounds me somehow. So as well as all the greenery, obviously, it's the power of nature is amazing.
Yeah. And if I could may extend a bit this idea, I said that we are Switzerland traveling in their own country. I grew up in the times in Lithuania. It was still not very popular to my surroundings to go for vacation abroad.
Okay.
So it's normal that you either go in summer to the village, to your grandparents. I was blessed my grandparents were living with us. So meaning everyone is gone and you're alone in your small town because your grandparents are with you. But we used to go near the sea. So my vacation is near the Baltic Sea, staying there, and then for a few weeks you have one grandparents, to another few weeks another grandparents are coming, and you as a kid staying at the sea. So for me, travels was also mostly when I was the kid in my own country, saying that's what we have. That's our nature treasure. That's the pine forest. They're very good for your health. I was a very sick child, so I always have to stay near the pine forest and near the sea to breathe in that air.
Mm.
So for me, it was normal that I don't need to fly somewhere. I just take car for 2 hours and I just go somewhere. And I got the same in Switzerland. In 2 hours, I could reach the amazing places. So for my heart, it's like that's normal way of living.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you think also that maybe growing up that way, that sort of gave you a desire to move to a different country as well, because you wanted to see more than you already had? Or where did that desire to move come from, do you think?
Mm-hmm. I think the adventure and finding out something new, it's always there. And now that you ask, I could see it in multiple layers. I like switching my room furniture, plan a few times a year. Even if you change the color of the carpet, it's still something checked, done. Reordering books, even as the kid, reordering books, reordering toys. I just try for the change. Even at work, having different projects after 3 years, it's like steadily moving. So for me, I think sometimes when we do some coaching work or mindful jobs or meditation, it's like, be happy with what I have. I'm quite aware with this saying that we are happy when we want what we have. So I know with such, hungry heart for more, I sometimes program myself always to, not to stay comfortable where I am. So I'm always balancing to enjoy what I have and always looking how I could rearrange something. How could I do something? And I think it nicely also said, okay, I've studied here, I worked here, it's a nice country. I want to experience life somewhere else.
And were you nervous at all when you moved? Did you have any concerns?
I think the nature did a trick on my brain. I don't remember much of that nervousness. But definitely, if I dig deeper, there were moments when I was really sitting and thinking, what would happen? What would happen to my relationship? What would happen with my friends? What would happen? I even went to my grandfather. I love my grandparents, and they are older than my parents. So they were the first one I was thinking about, and asked my grandfather, but I won't be able to see you so often. I will miss you. Shall I leave? That was the only question I really spoke out loud. And my grandfather said, well, what do you want from me? Just go and live your life. You will come when you come. And now he really encouraged me. But that for me was the relatives that are still living. I'm quite mindful that they won't stay forever with us. And I'm still happy, like after 8 years, in a few days, I'm going to visit that grandfather and tell him stories about Switzerland. I found ways to stay with him and touched in different ways. So there was nervousness, there was the preparation. But I'm also aware that once I decided, I could implement it, and that helped just to proceed. Yeah, so in the memories, it was like few months transition period while deciding and while moving. And it went smooth, I think.
Mm-hmm. And I think what holds a lot of people back from maybe if they want to move countries, but they're a bit scared to because they don't know if they're going to feel lonely or isolated, especially if they're moving to a different culture or somewhere with a different language. Did you have any issues with that, with making friends or with honing a community around you?
I think first what helped me in general also to trust that it will work, that I also had support from my ex-husband. So we really decided, okay, I leave, but the plan is that he might join later. So it was aware I'm still not alone in implementing this plan. But while coming in Switzerland, the challenges was that I'm quite introverted, and the people in Switzerland, they are more, as they call, they're more open, especially from the south countries. So they had way more bigger energy to communicate than me. And I was quite often drained. I'd also tried those international gatherings. And, after 5 times asking, hello, who are you? Where are you from? Where do you work? And then you repeat this 10 times and nothing happens. It was also tiring.
Yeah.
And then I think I decided slowly to build small hubs of the connections that could work for me. So first, I joined the Lenin network. It was the circle then, one of the first Lenin circles in Switzerland. The Lenin is an organization coming from Sheryl Sandberg from Facebook, encouraging women to come into the groups and support each other. So I think I went there after 3 weeks being in Switzerland. So I met my first support group, and I'm still there. I'm still with those women. We're now leading the network. I enrolled myself into sport club. That was the third day what I've made when I came to Switzerland. I collected small circle of Lithuanians in the bank I was working in, just to meet sometimes once per month for coffee.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was blessed with a very good team at work, both in my consultancy company and the client company. People were so open. Of course, it takes time to remember the names. There's so many names. I never heard such names before. You hear the name and you even can't repeat that name. Like in Lithuania, we have special names ourselves, but I never heard maybe so many Indian names or even Swiss names, and I just can't memorize them. But slowly, those small groups on my own pace, they crystallized, and I had people to reach out and to stay with.
So it's joining clubs and sort of trusting the process and letting it take time.
And I'm doing it my way as well, because I can't go. I don't like going to pubs or clubs, but I do like going to the pubs. But I don't like going to the clubs because anyway, no one hears me. So what's the point of talking and shouting? And then it's not the communication. But finding my way, maybe slower pace, and just having patience.
Mm-hmm.
That was my way.
And now that you've lived there for 8+ years, how do you think living in Switzerland differs from life in Lithuania? Are there any major differences that you've noticed?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we could go also very deep into thinking. And I think because this idea came first, I will share it. I feel the difference is how the history and social life shaped us. I feel also in the elderly people living in Switzerland who maybe they already in their senior age. I'm not saying that life was easy here. Each life is complicated. Each life is able to break us, but there was not so many cataclysms like war, political changes, repressions compared to the East Europe. And I see that the people are more used to feel the life. Enjoy the life. Just allow half an hour enjoying and sipping the coffee, going to the mountains, traveling in their own country. They're way more free to experience and enjoy that life. Yes, they have very different, strong rules. They're very agreeing what to do and very committed to society and the family, but they still have time to have joy in life. In Lithuania, we needed new generation slowly to start finding space, not only for duties, care, and worries, to start enjoying. I do feel that roots, that historical 20th century really shaped us differently. Also, openness is different. And of course, the cities are not destroyed. It's really, I'm really coming from historical background that how history impacts life of simple people. Simple is again, maybe, sorry for my English wrong word, casual, usual, people who just want to live their life, and then the history happens and then you're really shaped. So I do feel that easiness a bit in Switzerland compared to Lithuania. And going to our podcast topic, travels, Switzerland. Okay, where is Lithuania? That is the usually good question, but it's in the Baltic states above Poland, south country of the Baltic states. So if you want to travel, even if you like traveling by car, you either have to cross the Baltic Sea or go through Poland. with amazing highways ready for the travels. But if you're in the Switzerland, you just took car. In 2 hours, you're in France. In 3 hours, you're in Italy. Do you want to go to some Austria? It's there, Strasbourg. I'm in the middle of the Europe, and I do feel it. I don't need to plan so many efforts for weekend trip to visit some city. Even in one day, it's doable.
Mm-hmm.
And for exploring, for that, short runaways from daily work, it's perfect place. It's way easier to travel and explore, extend the horizons. Beat nature, beat some historical places, beat meeting people, meeting colleagues or cousin living near the border. It's very convenient location to connect and to travel.
Do you want to learn all about the 5 travel transformation principles, including how to conquer your fears through travel? Then you need to grab a copy of my Travel Transformation Guide, written by me, Jessica Grace Coleman, as part of my Flip the Script Academy. It's totally free. All I ask for in exchange is your email address so I can keep you updated on all things travel and transformation. Just head to traveltransformationcoach.com/free guide to get your guide today. And now, let's get back to the Travel Transformation podcast. So do you have more of a social life, would you say, in Switzerland? Because you can just go away for a weekend, or you can pop 2 hours down the road to meet someone.
It definitely gives more options what to do. I managed also to find what to do in Lithuania. We have very beautiful forests. I also had my network and still have it, be it university, be it school friends. But it's Lithuania is in a way a very beautiful country to travel, but you need to start looking at least 10 years ago proactively. Where is that? Where is the path through the forest? Where is the beautiful spots? It's somehow, because as a kid I was traveling to the sea mostly, so exploring the remaining country required some mindful, searching how to do it. I think once you move to another country, you're anyway on the move. You don't have the routine, and the dopamine most likely still works in the brain in the new place for a few years, and you just continue to explore because maybe we want that adrenaline, feeling more new and new. So I think together with my curiosity to explore the country in Lithuania, that newest feeling come in when I moved, and that enriched the life.
Yeah. And do you ever miss Lithuania? Do you get homesick?
There are some moments when you feel down, or maybe some not so easy to handle the daily issues. Sometimes I feel that I would like to sleep in my bed. And then, okay, which bed I would like to sleep, It's sometimes it's that I have that feeling. I'm happy to come in and meet the people. If I miss them, I just have to come back home early more often. It's like straightforward. We don't deal dramas. Oh, I miss you. No. If I miss you, I just come and meet you.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say that I miss it. I'm aware that I'm blessed to come to from Switzerland to Lithuania in 3-4 hours. Corona time was a bit special, definitely. So the people who stayed, my family, they with me in my heart, and they also happy to come to Switzerland. So we balance. I hope we balance that, not seeing us so often.
Yeah. And you just mentioned Corona. What was that like in Switzerland? Did you have all the lockdowns and all of that, or how did they tackle it in that country?
Mm-hmm. So definitely we also went to home office to make sure we don't spread the virus. But we had quite lots of freedoms. You still could go walk. It's lots of nature. You always could find the mountains where there is not another person there. They had some limitations, like they stopped the skiing places for some later after the first big wave were open, but like they took some precautions that you're not allowed to sell or drink alcohol by skiing to make sure you don't have accidents and you don't overburden the hospitals. There was, of course, shopping online. There was no shortage of the food. We also were in the same joking mode that we all buy toilet paper. So I remember at the time, I don't mind working from home. I don't mind being with me. I don't mind having my routine. but it requires changing the lifestyles to force me to go out of the home. And there were plenty of options. I still could go walk. I still could travel. I still could bike. But it's so easy just to hide in our homes. So I need mindfully to keep engaged in the society. So I think we were in the small paradise. I'm aware that in Corona, it's like the worldwide depression and worldwide suffering. So I don't want to say it was the good times. It was emotionally, we still feel what happened in the world, yeah. But in Switzerland, I was in a very good, safe bubble. Also with the people whom we stayed in touch, I've stayed in touch. And it was also a deep journey for myself as well. Time to reflect what I like. So what's real Evelina? What I really do when I'm limited. So for me, Switzerland created circumstances really to experience me and my life.
I love that. I think, I definitely had the time to reflect thing and thinking about what I want to prioritize in life, and what I wanted to prioritize was travel. So
yeah,
that came out of the pandemic basically, because you had time to slow down and really think instead of doing the million and one things you usually have to do every day. And like you say, you don't want to say it was good because it was a terrible thing and still is, but I think it did help people reevaluate their lives.
And I hope you won't forget it, because there is this saying that banks and people and history and politicians have short memory. So really hope you won't forget it.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so you are the host of the Footprints of an Expat podcast, which I had the pleasure of being a guest on recently. When did you start the podcast, and why did you want to start it?
It took me a few months to crystallize this idea. It started in the Corona times. I've started to reach out to my friends, and we had the Zoom calls or WhatsApp message exchanges. And I'm aware that I'm not known for the small talks. I have tendency to start digging a bit deeper with the questions. And then I'm thinking, I know so many stories and it's so inspiring. All my friends, all my surrounding. I mean, I know so many great people fighting every day to build their lives. And based on that, I think my idea was, can I do something for them? Can I do something? Can I leverage what I have to tell the stories? And then I thought, okay, I also would like to practice my English. I like to practice how to handle my voice. Still in my podcast, it's always difficult to listen how I sound. But then I thought, okay, let's create like the 20-minute talks where I ask people how they switch the countries. And maybe those people, usually it's the women who are my guests, could also give the message to their surroundings. I'm standing here, I'm happy, I have my home, I have my life, I have my family, but it not always was so easy. It took me a lot to come here, establish the life, and find my balance. We sometimes forget that there's so much suffering, not only because of the corona of the world, but there are people who switch their countries and maybe still have homesick feelings, or maybe they're not integrated. Those stories are not visible. We quite often cherish entrepreneurships or the good companies or the good careers, when the real life happens every day in small details. And I was somehow willing to touch that stories that circled around me and made them hurt. And then, okay, what you do? Anyway, I'm on the Zoom meeting like 8 hours per day, in the corona. Okay, let's try the Zoom call. I took some courses online, how you do it, how you record it, what's the minimum investment, what you need. And it started, and my friends, they trusted me. I have people, especially the first ones who joined it. I was really honored that they tried and trusted their stories to my podcast, and it continued rolling. I think I thought I could do maybe 15 talks. I counted which people could accept my invitation, and I already did, I think, more than 30.
Nice.
So for me, it was okay. I'm still there. There is still stories I could made heard, and that somehow also warms my heart that I could contribute to that, common understanding that life is not just simple and easy. It's very beautiful, but only when we create it in a beautiful way.
I love that. And you mentioned this before about not liking small talk, which I can relate to. one of my questions was going to be, you dig really deep in your podcast and really get your guests talking about things they maybe would not usually talk about, or thinking about things they might not usually talk about. So does that come naturally to you, that sort of digging deeper? Is that what you do generally when you're talking to people, or is it something you really try to hone when you did your podcast?
I do tend to dig deep and see for the deeper meaning. I sometimes need to remind me, Evelina, it's just an apero. Evelina, we're just outside. I don't need to take everything very serious. But in general, yes. I think I was a bit the bookwormish kid, reading lots of books when I've learned to read when I was 4, and then I never stopped. But at the same time, I'm somehow the one who, if I'm concentrated, I watch people, and I could notice, what's happening around. Of course, I miss a lot, but the things that I'm watching is about the life, how they feel, how they're situated, how the group integrates to each other, how they talk, and that helps me as well to navigate my own life. But in general, a bit hidden questions is like the books. I mean, let's be honest, when you read the book, you have an option to sneak peek into other life that you never live. When you dig deep into the questions of another person, you also have an option to travel in another life that you will never live. So sometimes I'm thinking, if those not small talks or even the podcast is my shortcut and cheating to do my internal travels, to experience, to figure out, to find out, to imagine, to compare. So I think it's for me that another traveling dimension, stories. And stories are something that's just around me.
And you've also written your own book, which I have bought, but I haven't read yet. I have got it. So could you tell us a little bit about that? Why you decided to write it? It's called Questions and Thoughts for Every Day.
Yes.
And what made you want to write this book?
Stories very interesting. In general, at school, I noticed that I could write, but I never had enough patience or enough ideas, ambitions to write the normal book. But writing and putting thoughts and feelings on the paper, it's even easier for me than to talk about them. I just had one talk with my friend this week, and we were digging a bit deeper, and I noticed, I don't have words to express feelings, but I could write about it. And 3 years ago, I was in Lenin conference in San Francisco representing Switzerland. And you're in the room of the woman who are so inspiring, and you just share so many important topics about the life, goals, supporting each other, equality. And at one moment I got the feeling, actually in our lives we could do everything. And then the second question came, so what would I like to do if I could do everything? And then something back on my mind told me I want to write the book. Okay, I want to write the book. Okay, what could I write about? And I just thought, most likely I'm too lazy. This is why I thought, okay, I won't write the novel. I won't write something creamy. But I have tendency to reflect and write short emotions, impressions for each day. And then I thought, it shouldn't be so difficult. Can I just write something each day? Just something each day for half an hour and see what happens. And I got inspiration, like you just watch something, you get maybe the object, be it the teacup, be it the horizon, and you just a bit stay on that object till the words come around it. And I just started noting it and then connecting maybe with the feelings or experiences. So it took me maybe 2 months each day writing something till I had a collection of some shareable thoughts. And then again, I went my way. I just Googled how to do it, how you publish it. I found a small woman company who edits the books, because my English is, people could understand me, but once it is written, the lady even asked, are you sure you don't want to repeat the grammar? You missed all the articles that could be in the sentences. And then Amazon helped a lot to publish it. I asked my, how it's called in English, goddaughter, to make the design for my book, and cooperated many people to support me, and I just self-published the book. And I think that was my goal. I didn't aiming to find a publisher or go wide. I just wanted to say I've tried, and I could say that I did it. So it's my honor, because I know you are the writer, And when I hear that another writer bought my book, my heart starts, the beat grows, speed increases. I'm very honored. So that's the story of my small book about meditations about the life.
I love that. And so that came out of going to a conference and being surrounded by inspiring women.
Yes, definitely.
Do you think you would have written it otherwise, or do you think it would have taken you a lot longer to get to it? I just love the idea of that's how it started, because I think there's so much power in surrounding yourself with people doing amazing things, and that kind of atmosphere can really set you thinking and sort of get sparks going that you might not otherwise have thought of.
It's definitely what you're saying. The surroundings we are putting ourselves in shapes our life. Sometimes we could be over-triggered and then we just went into burnout because we want to do everything. Getting back to your original question, if I would have done it without it, I think we could only speculate. But I see tendency in my life that some ideas come and goes, but some comes still again and again and again. So I would assume that book idea will still have found me anytime, sooner or later. And if I could a bit say it out loud, maybe also to make the promise for me, I have another plan for this Christmas with my sister together. We would like to know the recipes of our grandma and grandfather, the cooking recipes, and create the publishing book also maybe for our relatives. It's about the food being made in my hometown.
Oh, wow.
And the biggest problem there, it's not the book writing, is the pictures, because how you could cook so many great food that the grandma is cooking. But once you made first step, small podcast or the small book, it opens the world for new ideas. So maybe that small book was just the test to make sure I could publish something for my grandma as the present for her life and for her amazing cooking. So maybe that's how the life folds.
Oh, yeah, that recipe book sounds amazing. It sounds like I talk a lot about legacy.
Yes.
And leaving a legacy and backing up your life and all that kind of stuff. And that is exactly what I'm talking about, the recipe books of your grandparents.
That was the best series of your podcast about that legacy, because I sometimes thinking that's all what I would like to do, just to collect stuff and legacy, be it pictures, be it family books, be it recipes, concert tickets. I don't know why I have such, archive gene in me, but I really feel it. So that was the podcast series that I could recommend to everyone. It just inspires to know the life and to collect the life memories.
Oh, thank you. And that is definitely what you seem to be doing. So awesome. So before we go, what would you say to someone who's considering moving to a different country for work or for any other reason, but who might be feeling anxious about it, who might be talking themselves out of it, whether it's fear of the unknown or a lack of confidence or concern about making friends, whatever it may be? Do you have any advice for them?
I think here would be a bit straightforward and open, saying once you start traveling, you can't undo it. It is the step that really changes the life, because your country won't stay the same while you're away. So there is no back. Everything also moves parallel in your country. And in another country, you will have to co-create a lot to have something for you to call the home. It's fun and it's difficult. I think my message is you just have to be aware that things will change. And if change is okay for you, I think it's similar what you said in our podcast when we talked, that if you're able to handle problems at home, there's no way you won't be able to handle it somewhere else. So I couldn't agree more about it, but just be aware that it will change, it will be bigger, and be ready to handle it.
And is there anything else you'd like to mention or talk about before we go?
I think it's just about saying that thank you also for you. I will jump into this part to have for me the chance also to a bit crystallize my thoughts, especially my journey. I remember a few of my podcast colleagues or guests for my podcast guests said that you should tell your story. And I was always thinking, there's nothing more to tell about. You just know me, what do you want from me? And finally, somehow you managed it to tell us a bit my story out loud, and I also could feel that it was opportunity also to be a bit proud what I've done and the journey I've taken. And I think I take time for lots of reflections, but I never reached that one. But when we were talking now, I somehow felt that it's the beautiful life I'm living. So thank you for opportunity for me to be your guest and to experience that gratitude for myself and for my life. Yeah, it sounds very selfish, okay, but that's what I felt.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I think you definitely should be proud. It's a huge thing that a lot of people would love to do and they never get around to it, or they, like I say, they talk themselves out of it. I know lots of people who would love to move countries and they never do. So what you've done is huge, and it does sound like you've built a very lovely, beautiful life for yourself in Switzerland. So that's amazing. Do you have any social media or anything you'd like to put out there if anyone wants to follow you? Obviously, your podcast is Footprints of an Expat, so definitely check that out. Do you have any Instagram or LinkedIn you'd like to share? I can put it in the show notes as well.
Sure. On my Instagram, you could find me posting the books I've read with small comments. So the podcast I've listened to. So here, like the social media account for social media. I'm active on LinkedIn, but at the same time, welcome to connect, to talk, to share, and to experience this expat life together.
Great, thank you. And thank you so much for coming on, especially as you're back in Lithuania at the moment and going into holiday mode. So I really appreciate it.
I really enjoyed our talk. Thank you, Jess.
Thank you. Thanks again to my guest, Evelina, for coming on the podcast. If you enjoyed this episode and took something away from it, please tag me on Instagram at Travel Transformation Coach. And please give the podcast a share so we can reach more people who are interested in travel and in transformation. Thanks again for listening. And until next week, I'll catch you on the flip side. Bye. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Travel Transformation Podcast with me, Jessica Grace Coleman. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate and review, and spread the word if you have friends or family who also want to transform through travel. For a chance of winning one of my books in ebook form, please review this podcast on Apple Podcasts and send a screenshot to info@traveltransformationcoach.com or @traveltransformationcoach on Instagram. I'll be picking a new winner each month, and you can choose between any of my non-fiction titles, including Write Your Life, Write Your Year, and Intentional Travel Transformation. You can find out more about me at traveltransformationcoach.com, and until next time, I'll catch you on the flip side.